Hello, everyone. Tamara and Ruth here for your weekly energy update. Hi, Ruth.
Well, good morning, Tamara. Good to see you.
Today is November 16th, 2017. And oh my God, what a week. I feel like this is a really, I'm really happy to come together with everybody today because I feel like, um, we're here in the dark moon corridor, aren't we?
We
Before the
definitely, in fact, I was driving last night. I mean, I had the car lights on, obviously, but I was going, it is dark out here. And I realized the dark moon is when we really have to look at things.
And don't you feel like in just looking at the things that have been happening, things in the news, things that are going on with people that we talk to, that they're really experiencing some of that. The dark moon to me always feels it's been so helpful for me to know what the moon cycle is, because those couple of days before a new moon, we have a new moon on Saturday, I believe,
Hmm.
in Scorpio
Hmm.
that we're going to
Hmm.
talk about. Before that new moon, it feels like you can't find any light, like you're just in the dark. And hasn't it felt like that with things you've observed? And you were telling me about drivers on the road and
Well, one of the things that I've observed were two things. Uh, the traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars.
Mhm.
So you have all of that aggression to some extent. And then, of course, the more esoteric ruler is Pluto. What I've been observing yesterday, within I had to go like 2 miles out of the way to get on the freeway, but within that space, I saw two collisions, and this is really strange because all of that energy, it's as though people are not able to express, and I think that's the key word for Scorpio,
Mhm.
expression of what you're feeling, because it's a water sign, and it's about the expression. So that's really what I want to look at today.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. And the other thing that's really popping into my awareness that just not that we have to make this the main focus, but we have Mars in Libra, which is, Mars is more comfortable in its opposite sign, Aries, and then we have,
Hmm.
we've got all this stuff going on in Scorpio. And so there are a lot of feelings, but I would say people almost don't know what to do with their feelings right now. And that's why they're popping out sideways, or people are getting
Right.
frustrated, or they're not grounded when they're driving, because the emotions are there. And Scorpio is doing its roto-rooter on us and saying, get to the bottom of dysfunction, get to the bottom of what you need to look at. And we don't, I feel like we almost don't have the tools this week. Like people are feeling like, yeah, I'm having all these feelings, but I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do with them.
That's a great image of the rooter and all of these mass of feelings going around in the psyche. It's like a whirlpool. That's another image that comes to me, because Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio, is often looked at as as fire in the ice. Can you imagine fire encased in the ice? And so you have this heat because it's a fixed sign. So you have all of these emotions that are kind of stuck, but they're going around and around and around. So that's a great image of the rotor rooter, because we got to find some point at which that energy comes up.
Well, and it seems to me that it's like when I was looking at what you were just saying as an image, somebody's got to break the ice to get the fire out, or get what's trapped
The
underneath
energy,
out.
yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that, so there's a little, I would say some of the words for this week would be frustration, implosion, and this feeling around in the dark kind of thing.
But I want to put a nice caveat onto that.
Right.
Something that I observed, because I go to the music jam session each week, and there was, now this is the Libra and Scorpio and Jupiter together. And I saw something really, I didn't realize it until I sat and thought about it.
Hmm.
After everybody had done their particular performance, I noticed, because we're in a store, and so you get all kind of instruments. Groups of people would go over to their instruments and they would sit and talk with each other, and they would share, including myself. One of my fellow players, we sat and we talked about some particular things, but there was this kind of calm in this place,
Mm-hmm.
because in that moment all of that energy was channeled into something, and that's very Scorpionic as well as Librian. There, that energy of being close to someone who understands a particular, in this case, the particular musical situation. Everybody was in their little groups talking to each other, and it felt calm in there. And so I think that that's a really important thing that people can do for themselves, particularly with this weekend coming up, is just identify where you can go and talk to someone in a very calm and creative way. In this case, it was the creativity coming together, but it was the groups of people connecting with each other, listening to each other.
Yeah, so I mean, that's very important, because one of the words that is coming up for this week through what you just said is channel. How can you channel the intense feelings that you're having so that they don't go act on you subliminally, is to harmonize, find a place that you're understood, with someone who understands you. Let yourself be seen, because this is sort of an energy that's very intense. Our emotions are intense, and the emotions that people are having right now are not superficial. They're not just sort of, not that emotions are ever superficial, but
it's meaningful. At this point, what is meaningful and important to you. And it's very important to take that in, huh?
Yeah, the issues that people are processing right now are not superficial issues, is what I meant to say.
Right.
And so this channeling is a very important concept that you are bringing up, that finding a place to channel this, because there's a lot of power coming through people. And if we're not aware of the power, it kind of acts a little bit funky with us. Ruth, what are the cards that you chose for this week? What did you?
Well, because I have a couple of cards that really, I think, signify what's going on in the collective psyche that is of disturbing nature. I received, because I'm using Sonia Choquette's Ask Your Guides, and I got despair. And that is one word that is describing the overall general feeling. And that's why, as you and I are saying, it's so important to find a comfort place, and people you can be comfortable with, and nature, see, this is with nature spirits. So despair can be alleviated even just by going and finding a little space in nature. Comfortable people also going and finding a natural nature space.
This is important too, because as you're talking about that, I want people who are watching this to be aware of what are the sources of despair that you are feeling at this time. And one of the reasons I think Ruth is recommending being with nature is that nature is reality. It is real. And there's a lot in our world right now, information-wise, and there's some there are like some fumes coming through that are affecting our minds and our hearts right now, that have to do with untrue things. And so when we pay more attention to untrue things than what is the truth, we feel despair, don't we? We feel a complete disconnect. And I feel like one of the things that's happening with people this week, Ruth, is a sense of despair that's coming from disconnection. And so we may need to look at in our lives, our day-to-day lives, what's taking me out of my nature and what puts me back into my nature so I feel connected. Because not to get into a lot of conspiracy here, but I believe that there are a lot of information streams that are designed to take us out of our nature and into despair, out of connection. And so we really have to be a warrior within right now with that.
And I'm glad you said that, because when we look astrologically at Neptune and Pisces, Pisces and Neptune, first and foremost, it rules the collective consciousness. And whether we know or acknowledge it, we all tap into that, what I call the unified field. That is the energy that's flowing around us. And depending, just as you pointed out, it's really important to stay connected to oneself, because there's a choice. Either you're going to be connected with the best of you, or if you allow the thought forms, if you align with the thought forms that are swirling around, that are of the negative, they will take you way outside of who you are.
Yeah, and I appreciate you using those words, because thought forms are just that. They are not reality. They are not necessarily true. They are just thought forms. And so being aware that despair is not our natural state of being. It's a corrective, it's a frequency that we feel when we need to sort of say, sticking out to self, I'm feeling this ugly vibe it feels very not me, and like I have to fit into this not me energy that is despair. And it's saying, click back into your nature, click into nature, so that you can stop feeling this false set of frequencies. Now, one of the things that I drew the lovers this week for people, and this is I like the colors on this card.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I almost need to talk about this with the other cards, because I also drew the Princess of Swords. And this is very much, we are talking right now about when, the lovers has to do with the duality inside our decision process when we have need, when we make compromises with our most passionate decisions and feelings, and we're sort of looking at things from split perspectives. I think it's ruled by Gemini.
Yes, it is.
And then we've got a Princess of Swords card, which says, slice through the stuff that is irrelevant, that is outdated, that is not true for you. What are you paying attention to in your most heartfelt decisions right now that is irrelevant to you? It's not going to add to your happiness in the future. You're just adding, stuffing in,
fuel to the proverbial fire.
Yeah, pull the stuffing out, because I think some of the things that are making us feel confused on an emotional level this week, or fuzzy brained, have to do with like untrue stuffing that we've stuffed around our core values. And how can we slice that away? And I always like to ask people to just feel into it with your body. Does this feel light and expansive to me, or does it feel heavy? And can you take out the stuff that feels heavy for you? Whatever thought form you're using to build this reality, can you say, it could be anything. It could be, well, I need to work a 9-to-5 job. Well, do you really need to work a 9-to-5 job? Or are there other more fun ways, if you're that sort of person, for you to piece together a living? And so if 9-to-5 feels to you heavy inside, maybe you're stuffing your core values with untruths. Does that make sense, what I just was putting together?
Yes, it does, because the other, the second card that I have is a shadow. It goes right along with the despair. If we look at the image, we have the head with your princess card, the sword card,
Mm-hmm.
We have the conflict. That's the mental. Those are the thought forms. And look at our heart right down here. We have our heart. We need to refer, but it's little. And we get caught up in the collective thought.
Yeah,
I'm really
collective
having,
thought.
it must really be coming through.
What is the name of that card, Ruth? I can't read it.
Divine healers. We
Oh,
need to
divine
call
healer.
on the
Okay.
divine healer within ourselves, which is the heart. And you see, we often give more credit
Mm-hmm.
to all of that conflict and who said what and what's on the front of the internet and the newspaper and all of the, as you say, the smog, the emotional smog
Psychic smog.
appears. Yeah.
Well, and I have to say that I do feel like this is a bit of a challenging time for a lot of people, in that there's a confusion that's coming about collectively. The confusion is, do I even have my own life within this sort of strange trending?
I am so glad you're saying that. Say that again, because that is a very big question. Can I have my own life?
Yeah, am I allowed to? Because there's information being pumped out through all the information we're seeing, that our lives are not really our own. We're not creating anything. Instead, everything's a disaster. Everything's going downhill. Humans are ruining the environment, etc. And I think that, so our willpower. Well, first, it's the clarity that we're losing right now.
Yes.
Collectively, we're feeling like, well, I don't know if I can have what I want because everything's going downhill. Can we hear the thoughts that we're saying about our lives moving forward, where we're not feeling? We talked last week about ownership. And I think that is that we need to continue with that through line for ourselves, that
Mm-hmm.
if someone wants you to feel like you don't own your life, that is psychic smog. That's taking
right.
away from your ability to create it and see it clearly. So, for example, I feel like I've talked to people lately who are just feeling like there are so many puzzles they can't figure out right now in life. Like, I have this thing and I don't have the answer, and I keep trying to find the answer, and I'm looking out there and I'm not seeing anything that's giving me the answer, so I'm confused. And those are the moments that, to use your advice, to go into nature and into your nature and sit with who you really are and receive the answer for the next step for you, so you're not confused.
And I'm really, really, really glad you said that, because I want to bring this back once more.
Mm-hmm.
When we endeavor to reach out beyond ourselves and don't get into our own heart center space truth, that's when things really get conflictual. And just as you posed, not having one's own life, because that is categorically untrue.
Mm-hmm.
Every person, every one of us, it may look small for some people when we judge, because part of it has to do with judgment and measuring according to the richest person in the land. Yes, they're the richest people in the land.
Right.
But in your own heart, if you can get in there and listen to you're the richest person in your life.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things too about our particular society, is that it's set up, that's a falsehood, that you can't be happy unless you're the richest in the land. And it's just untrue. And we need, and there's so many active thought forms right now circulating, that you have to make a certain amount of money, or you have to be living in a certain place to be happy. And I just remember from my days in social work that some of not all of them, but I met some really happy people, generous people, who were in a more impoverished situation than the average person. And part of it was because sometimes they were dealing with something really intense, like the death of a child, and the family recovering, and or moving here from a third world place. And so they were really coming up in life, and very grateful that there were services, and grateful to have the people that they did have around them, and sort of be in this recovery space. And I think so much that we are being advertised a lifestyle in the US that is not happiness producing in its, and we are buying some stuff. We're buying, if I look at the pharmaceutical ads, we're buying that our bodies are all falling apart and that we've got to get the newest drug. I mean, there's so many ways that there's this sneaky stuff going on, making us feel powerless, making us feel that we are not enough and that we have no idea what our own truth is. Well, that's just not true.
It is not. And my card, my third card for today is called Invention. And I would say that each one of us has the ability, because we are really reinventing every single day, every single moment. And it goes back to the heart center. Astrologically, the North Node is in Leo. And I'm going back to when we had the eclipse in August. Remember, the eclipse keeps going for at least 8 or 9 months. Mm-hmm. And remember, it was formed around the heart, and creativity is in the land of the sun. How can I shine? And that's really important. It may seem, because everybody says, well, no, they can shine, but I can't shine. But that's not the truth. Each one of us, every single day, needs to ask, how can I shine my light today, wherever I stand?
I'm really glad that you mentioned the North Node, because again, that is the place of evolution for us collectively. And we all have our individual North Nodes, but keeping, especially when you're feeling a little bit out of center, as people are right now, and feeling like you don't really have the guidance that you need, or you're not really clear, that North Node is the North Star. And yes. So and you can always get that information just from looking at, well, where is the North Node for us collectively right now? Mm-hmm. So that's what you're talking about, Ruth, is that North Node in Leo, which is also Leo, fifth house right. is joy. And,
yes, it is.
And I wanted to share my last card. So I have the Lovers, the Princess of Swords, which is the cutting through of, things that are not our core values, that are not in our hearts. And I also have the Knight of Cups, which is a movement card to offer people new experiences through the heart right now and through the emotions. And there's a softness to this card and a nurturing, that there's a promise that this week there will be some nurturing energy, an invitation into the softer feelings of you, and go toward those places. Yes.
I want to put it up again, because with your card and my card together, go toward, that's right.
They even look similar.
Yeah, there's a very similar, there's similarity here. Yeah. The gifts, if we're willing to accept the gift, though, it has to come from inside, but we have to be willing to accept the gift.
Yeah. Well, this is our time for this week. I want to really encourage those of you who are watching this to, reach out to Ruth and to me. I always put our links below, but I mean, this is a time to not traverse difficult territory alone. And there's lots of support for you. Again, one of the things that Ruth said is harmonize with like-minded souls that make you feel good about who you are. This is very important. It's a gift you can give yourself, is to be with people who see who you really are. The magic that comes about when people get you is so important. A couple of announcements too. Tomorrow on the radio show, we're going to be talking a little bit more about you as an empath. We're going to be going into some tools you can use to clear out some of the smog. And right after the radio show, Ruth is joining me for a special live stream in our weekly energy update group. So if you're not part of that, please jump in, because we're going to be talking all about the new moon in Scorpio. And just remember that we're in that dark moon, almost dark moon phase here, and the new moon is coming soon. So we're going to jump in and do that, talk about the new moon in Scorpio and how that can light up some important things for people. So please join us in the Facebook group for that.
And I love Scorpio. I adore Scorpio.
Well, and you're a wonderful example of someone with Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio just gets to the bottom of it, and it has so many resources for every crisis.
Yes, it does.
Scorpio has an answer. And that's why if you're feeling like you don't have the answers right now, that's a collective energy issue. That is not.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And come over and join us so that we can begin to deal with some of this together.
So buckle up, everybody. Get ready for the new moon in Scorpio. Meet us there tomorrow. We'll have more great content for you. And of course, like and share and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.